Hello everyone and a very warm welcome back to the channel. Now this is gonna be a tough one because talking King Diamond is literally like a drop in salt on an open wound for me. I used to be a huge die-hard fanboy of the band and Merciful Fate too, of course. In the late 80s, from 1988, I would say, till one decade later, they would be like my favorite band. And sadly enough, everything they released after 1998 is kind of like questionable to say the least, if not plain atrocious. And that's exactly the what we're focusing on today. The albums which the man put out in the last 3 decades. Now, there's no question about it. The first five King Diamond releases are just top-notch masterpieces. They belong to the metal Gotha. If you don't like those albums, please get the hell out of here. But it's a well-known fact that the quality of his albums started decreasing, and the question remains: do we still need a new King Diamond album in 2026? That's the question I'm trying to answer with this video. We're gonna take a look at every album he released in the past 3 decades. The albums we're gonna have a look at are showcased in order of chronological release. Some of them have been sold and they will be mentioned as such. Some of them are still in my possession. I decided to hold on to them because that's how big of a King Diamond fanboy I am. Even King Diamond at his worst is probably better than a lot of the stuff that gets released these days. But starting off with the album he released in 1995, The Spider's Lullaby. Now we gotta give some insight on what was going on at the King Diamond headquarters in the mid 90s. The last album he had released at that point was the Godly The Eye album, which in my humble opinion is still the strongest King Diamond LP ever. Pretty bold statement, I understand. A lot of people seem to think that Abigail is that one album, but maybe I will dedicate a video about it, more about it in the future. The Spider's Lullaby, yep, 1995. It took him 5 years to find a new lineup. Believe it or not, King Diamond got lost his deal to Roadrunner Records with the previous album, which apparently didn't sell enough. In my humble opinion, it's the fact that it didn't sell enough is related to the fact that metal was not, as a genre, it was not selling that well anymore. It was, the early 90s. People started switching their interest to bands like Nirvana, Guns N' Roses, Pantera, etc., etc. So, yeah, there was not much room left for traditional metal the way King Diamond played. And just like that, it took him 5 years to secure a new deal with Massacre Records from Germany. Now, Massacre Records is one of those labels that we, as metal fans, should always owe a debt of respect in a way, because they kept the interest in metal alive in a time when metal was not selling at all. 1995 year release, as I said before, it was incredibly hard to find on vinyl. It was released as a limited edition of 1,000 copies only, and I was not able to find it inside the local stores. It was the very first King Diamond album which didn't make it to my store, which speaks volumes on how much vinyl was declining in terms of sales at the time of its release. As a result, I had to buy it on CD, and the copier scene was later acquired on eBay, and I had to pay more than 100 euros at the time, which was already some 20 years ago or something. And be prepared to fork out at least 300 or more if you're willing to secure a copy. Musically speaking, this is incredibly solid. It's one of the best, let's say, modern King Diamond stuff, assuming a term like modern applies to records which are like 30 years old, but you get my point. By modern, meaning like the stuff he released after the Eye. Okay, let's set that line as a frame of reference. At least 5 absolutely killer songs on this record. From the Other Side, The Killer, The Poltergeist, Eastman's Cures, and the godly Room 17, they belong to the best production of the band. Hands down, classic King Diamond in here. Now, the other songs might not be that strong, but let's face it, how many albums you're buying today that can offer 5 good songs on them? Not that many. As I said before, this is the original pressing, and if you're looking for one, be extremely careful because there is a counterfeit edition released in Greece in the early 2000s. I remember acquiring a copy and finding out it was a bootleg. There was this Greek guy whose name I'm not gonna mention. I'm not even sure if he's still around these days, if he's probably dead or whatever. He released counterfeit editions of The Spider's Lullaby, Manowar's Louder from Hell. There was some Accept album that he bootlegged. The easiest way to tell the difference between an original first pressing and the illegal counterfeit reissue is the fact that the original comes on this very beautiful glossy cardboard. The inner sleeve is printed in this very, very beautiful black. It's a pitch black, literally, as well as the central label. They are all pitch black. The counterfeit reissue was pressed at our beloved friends from GZ, from the Czech Republic. And as a result, you get, GZ seem to have problems. They kind of like fixed it in the later releases. But back in the mid 90s, early 2000s, they had this problem that each and every time they tried to print, black, the black color, it would always be like grayish, kind of like a gray shade of black, if that makes any sense to you. And that's the case with the counterfeit edition of this album. It looks gray, the inner sleeve, I mean. The central label is slightly misaligned, which also is telling about the qualities of the whole thing. And it comes also, the central label too, in this really annoying grayish color. So yeah, be extremely careful. You don't want to pay like $200 and end up with a reissue. This is the first pressing. It's gonna stay with me because it's a brilliant album. I wish I could say the same for the following record, The Graveyard, which was released in 1996 as a CD and originally picture disc only. This is the 2009 repress on regular black vinyl, which Massacre Records released. It's limited to 500 copies and it's pretty rare these days. Sells for well over 100 euros. Now, I have a lot of complaints concerning this release, both visually and musically. Visually, while I do think that they did an acceptable job with this gatefold re-release, why did they put this remastered by Andy LaRock writing on the top right corner? I mean, why? Why would you do that? Why didn't they just use I don't know, like one of those removable stickers or whatever? Now they had to, come up with this silly writing which totally, deters from the quality of the brilliant cover artwork, and kind of a lame decision. And all the reissues that Massacre Records did, this one, the one for the House of God, Voodoo, and one more album which I can't remember right now, they all include this really, really unnecessary writing. So, I mean, Massacre Records kind of disappointing me on this one. Sadly enough, it's musically speaking, this album is even more disappointing. It's one of the worst King Diamond albums ever released, in my humble opinion. I listened to it because I sold this copy. I really had to, force myself to listen to this damn thing because some songs are just so incredibly dumb. Like Black Hill Sanitarium has some of the some of the silliest refrains ever. I don't know what was the man thinking, but this album is literally filled to the brim with silly songs. Sleep Tight Little Baby, Midnight, they're all but they're all pretty bad songs. So just like that, I was extremely disappointed when I acquired this record on CD. I decided to give it a second chance and bought it again on vinyl, but it just doesn't work for me. And I decided to sell it. Gotta say also the vocals are incredibly weak on this release. It's probably the weakest vocal performance of King ever. It's a time when the man was still chain smoking, and I think at some point it probably caught up with him. As a result, the vocal performance on this album is very, very subpar. Next up is gonna be an even sadder chapter. It's a Voodoo album. Again, an album which was only released as originally as a picture disc by Massacre Records. When I bought this record, I was on one hand, I was so into the artwork. Like, look at it. The artwork itself is the reason why I wanted to keep this record in my collection, but I decided to sell it because I mean it just doesn't get any spins. So what's the point? But the artwork itself, look at it, absolutely brilliant. It's said that such an amazing artwork is wasted on this absolutely sleeping pill of a record. Everything on this album is just forgettable at best, when not a plain when not a plain disaster. I don't know how else to put it. Really, it's from the time when King used to hang around with Phil from Pantera, and I think it kind of shows in the music of this album. It's don't get me wrong, it doesn't sound like Pantera per se, but the riffs are kind of like chuggy in a way, and their songs themselves, they don't flow that well. Forget about those really memorable King Diamond refrains that you would find in those previous albums. They're completely gone. This album just doesn't do it for me. For some reason, it still has a good reputation among fans. I don't know why, honestly. The man still plays the title track on his live shows, and I wonder why again, because it's a terrible song. My best explanation for that would be this is probably one of those, I don't know, gateway albums that people born in the late 80s, early 90s, probably it was their first confrontation with a band. Have no idea, but to me this album just doesn't deserve to be in my collection, except for the brilliant cover artwork. So my expectations were kind of low when I decided to acquire the following album, House of God, and guess what? I had to completely reconsider my views, because this album is a masterpiece. It's the best King Diamond album in ages, and if you're looking for some, again, let's say modern stuff by the man, this is your go-to album. It's his best release, and contains some of his very, very best songs in a long while. The Trees Have Eyes, House of God, Black Devil, and the Stellar Catacomb. My goodness, such good songs, and it's a shame that the man doesn't play them live anymore, because they would definitely deserve to be in the set list of his shows. Again, a very rare pressing, 1000 copies only, my own one hand number to 393, glossy cardboard, again a thing of beauty from our dear friends at Massacre Records. Go get a copy of this album if you don't have it, because it's King Diamond in his heydays. I wouldn't necessarily say it's as strong as the early five, as the first five releases, but it's not too far away from that either. I would rate it as a solid 9.5 out of 10. It's definitely worth that ranking. So, brilliant King Diamond album. Just like that, I was full of expectations, because after an album like this, the least you can expect from an album called Abigail II is to bring you back to the 1987, when the original Abigail was released. And again, unfortunately, my expectations were sadly not met, and I was left disappointed. The instant I saw this cover artwork in the stores, I was like, okay, I have to get this album. I mean, coming from an album like the previous one, seeing this artwork, I was like, oh my goodness, the man is back in his real best days. I have to have this album. Sadly enough, I wouldn't say it's the worst King Diamond album ever, but it's certainly not the best either. Something like a 6.5 out of 10. Don't get me wrong, this album still has its moments. There are some fairly good songs which are somehow ruined by some rather debatable decisions. Like, for instance, Mention in Sorrow, third song on side A, starts off as a classic King Diamond tune with this really nice double bass drums attack, but then it has this very, very annoying refrain, very silly refrain that, I don't know, kind of like ruins the song. Slippery Stairs, another song which I would say it's okay, but certainly not as good as any of the songs on House of God. The redeeming quality about this album, the redeeming factor about this album is besides the cover artwork, is the insanely godly soloing on this record. Like Mike Wedd and Andy LaRocque absolutely outdid themselves. Like the solos on this album is the reason why I decided to keep it in the collection. It's so impressive. I would have to say this album would sound probably better as an instrumental than it does as fully vocal one, but Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's kind of like a missed opportunity in a way because the concept is, of course, it's Abigail, so you can't possibly go wrong with that. It takes off where where the story ended in the previous Abigail album, 1987. But as a whole, it's probably even a bit too long. 13 songs, not really needed. So yeah, kind of a missed opportunity. Still considerably better than the Puppet Master. The Puppet Master, I would say it's a 6 out of 10 album at best. I decided to keep it in the collection again because of the godly guitar work and also because of the Magic song. Now the rest of the album might not be that interesting, but Magic has hints of classic King Diamond. Just like that, I said, okay, whatever, let's keep it in the collection. Other than that, I would say this pressing is kind of shows that the labels were not that careful about vinyl pressings anymore. Gone is the glossy cardboard for the sleeves, gone is the inner sleeve. All you have is this miserable lyrics shit, but that's just a sign of the times. Pretty much the same can be said for the very last full-length album the man has released up to this date, which is Give Me Your Soul, Please. Another album which I wouldn't necessarily say it's bad, but it's not very good either. I decided to keep it in the collection because, as you can tell, it's slightly ruined when it was delivered by the mailman. Some disaster happened. As a result, there are some wrinkles on the cover and just like that. I just can't possibly sell it. Also, again, the solos are absolutely killer, but the songs themselves not that much. I mean, I'd be hard pressed to name one song that I actually can remember that is actually memorable from this album. That's my main problem with later King Diamond releases. Like I could probably name the track list to Fatal Portrait or Conspiracy any time of the day. But when it comes to these later releases, I'd really struggle to remember, let's say, 2 or maybe 3 songs from each and every album we have seen so far. The very last release we are gonna take a look at today is a collector's item which has been sold. And which brings us back to the time in between the Voodoo album and Abigail II, which is when King got signed to Metal Blade Records, as we mentioned before. He released this mini CD. It was originally a mini CD only with 5 songs. And what happened is that our dear friends at Night of the Branded Vinyl Makers label decided to release it as a vinyl. It's a black, it's a white vinyl with this conspiracy-inspired picture of King and the central label. 500 copies only. Now, my question with you would probably think like I have a beef with this label. Absolutely not, I don't. But when you're releasing stuff, when you're charging €30 for a vinyl like this, the least you can expect for it is that it's flawless. But no, I mean, with Night of the Vinyl Dead Records, there's always a problem of some sort. In the case being, it's the track list is fucked up. They mention Moonlight as the first song on side A, and from the other side as the first song on side B. It's the other way around. It's from the other side on side A and Moonlight on side B. Why don't they just listen to the bloody test pressings that they get from GZ? Because of course this was pressed at GZ as usual. I mean, again, nothing personal towards the guys. If they are listening to this, I'm sure they are dedicated fans of metal. You don't start a metal vinyl label out of nowhere. But why aren't you a bit more, careful with your releases is beyond me. So, I mean, it's a collector's item. You don't necessarily get this to listen to it. It's just an item which you want to have in your collection. If you're a diehard fan of the band like I sold it because I don't really see the point of having a flawed release in my collection. So that pretty much does it for this episode. Now the question we started this video with, do we still need a King Diamond release, is still open, up for debate. If you ask me, no, we don't really need a new King Diamond release. I know he has a new album out, he's been talking about it for I don't know, ages now. But at this point, I really wouldn't be comfortable with having his name on a subpar release like it has happened several times before, as we have seen in this video. But then again, what do I know really? What if the man comes up with a new House of God? I mean, if he could write an album the class of that one, then I would totally, bow down in sign of reference to the guy and say, okay, I was deadly wrong, you still have it, go ahead. But chances are pretty slim to none, so in my humble opinion, what is better off these days is his collection of Legos or whatever. I don't know if he's collecting Legos, maybe I'm mistaken with someone else, but yeah, it's probably much better off retiring and enjoying his very well-deserved retirement fund, because how many incredibly great albums this man has released, too many to mention. And guess what, this is a spoiler alert for the next videos. I will have a video focusing on my Merciful Fate vinyl collection, which is a good 40 or so vinyl consistent, so yeah, keep an eye on this channel if you're looking for more King Diamond and Merciful Fate vinyl, because I will definitely come up with some surprises under that department. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let me know down in the comments what are your personal opinion concerning these later King Diamond releases. Do you still long for more King Diamond stuff? Do you enjoy the records we have seen so far? And as usual, till the next time, keep it loud and heavy as always.